From the Silver Dome in Pontiac, Michigan, WFUM-TV presents the Class D Michigan High School Athletic Association Football Championships. Today, in the Class D clash, it will be Menden versus Rudyard. And as you can hear in the background, the bands are coming off the field, and we are getting very, very, very close to the start of a full day of football here under the dome in Pontiac, Michigan. Hello, everybody. I'm Jim Gaver. With me, Joe Roberson. For the second year, WFUM has had the privilege of carrying these games, and this first one, Joe, the Class D game, should be quite a battle and quite an individual battle between a couple of terrific running backs.
A couple of fine tailbacks. Both teams seem to be very, very ground-oriented, and the scores that they've run up throughout the season are impressive, Jim. Should be a good offensive football game.
Of course, for Menden, first off, we have Eric George, and he's a threat anytime he has the football.
He's averaging about 9.8 yards a carry, and that means he must be able to break the big one. You don't break up that kind of statistic without running off some awful long gains.
Of course, both teams primarily ground teams, and that first down play will be a big one. At the other end, with Rudyard, we have Tony Sakachi, who already going into this game has set almost every rushing record, scoring record imaginable for a running back in the Michigan High School Athletic Association.
Yes, and he's averaging 8.6 yards a game or per carry, so he's going to be a very dangerous threat too.
Sakachi in the quarterfinal matchup against Indian River, which Rudyard won 34-12, scored 4 touchdowns in that game. He's got, I believe, 36 touchdowns already on the season. And, of course, Eric George, again for Menden, made the big difference in their quarterfinal game. He scored on a 4th and 8 play in overtime to win that one for them.
Should really be a battle of the trenches, I imagine.
Okay, the starting lineups are being introduced right now. Rudyard has won the toss. They will receive in today's game as they are being introduced to the fans down on the field right now. An impressive crowd for two schools that have had to travel quite a bit to get here.
Yes, and they're neither one very big schools, but they sure do have a lot of fans. The sea of green right down here below us and orange across the field, and both crowds look ready.
And we are just about ready to begin action as the remainder of the orange-suited Bulldogs are introduced to their fans across the field. We have, of course, 4 sets of officials for these 4 games today. In this first game, the referee will be David Hennigar from Trenton, Michigan. The umpire, Robert McNiven from Southgate. Linesman James Laginus, I believe it is, from River Rouge, and the line gen William McGrath from Wyandotte, Michigan. And Joe, we hear across the way the cheer that we heard a lot of last year, and that's UP Power.
Indeed. Last year we had 2 UP teams playing the early games. This year we have only 1, but they still brought a pretty good crowd considering how far they came, and they are an excited crowd.
Okay, Menden is slightly favored in this game, although it's expected to be a close game. Menden got here first by beating Gobles, as we mentioned, in overtime on that 4th down and 8-yard to go touchdown by Eric George. They won that game 30-22. And an interesting point, although we talk about a running team, you think about 3 yards in a cloud of dust, but they had to do some work to come back in that one. They trailed 22-6 after 3 quarters and came back to win it in overtime 30-22. In the semifinal matchup, Menden took on Waterford Our Lady of Lakes and handled them pretty easily, 33-14. Rich Truckee in that game took a kickoff, 76 yards. Truckee also had 170 yards and 11 carries. And that's quite impressive when, as you say, they have Eric George in that backfield that's picking up about 9 yards a carry.
Well, clearly they do not have to rely totally upon George, and if they begin to key too much on him, Truckee certainly can be an influence in the ball game.
Okay, as we mentioned, Rudyard has won the toss. They're coached by Ken Bickle. They will receive, and they'll have Bill Anderson, the 6'1", 150-pound senior, quarterbacking for them. That backfield, Tony Sakachi, of course, the young man we talked about, who is breaking all sorts of Michigan high school records, will be at fullback. He's a 5'9", 188-pound senior. Oliver Bowden will be a one-halfback, 5'7", 145-pound senior, and 5'8", 140-pound senior Alan Sherman will be at the other halfback position. Tracy Hooper and Paul Augustin are the two ends for the Bulldogs. And in the trenches for Rudyard at tackles, Mo Irwin and Butch Carter. At the guards, Robert Kreiderman and Chris Ward. And over the ball at center will be Fran Meyer. The cheer you hear now is for the Mendon Hornets as they take the field, prepared to kick off in this 1982 Michigan State High School Athletic Association Class D Championship.
It's interesting to notice on the far sideline, Jim, 12 reserves. It's all that Rudyard has. Obviously a small school, and depth cannot be one of their strengths.
And as you'll see when we get to announcing both lineups, as you take a look at Phil Batten, the 5'8", 160-pound senior who will do the kicking off for the Mendon Hornets. Back to receive for Rudyard will be Oliver Bowden. And the kick will go to the far side of the field, taken there across the 25 to 30, and the ball will be put in play at the 34-yard line. Dave Elliott, I believe, was the... and we'll check that. It was Butch Carter who brought the ball back for the Bulldogs. They'll put the ball in play at their own 34-yard line. We'll set that Hornet defense for you momentarily. Sakachi and Bowden set behind quarterback. That's Sakachi. He'll get out across the 35 to about the 38-yard line. Give him 4 on the play. Call it 2nd and 6.
Started right off with misdirection, Jim. Set their power to the right and came back over the left guard.
Come out now in the I formation. Sakachi is close. Bowden at the tailback position. Sakachi gets the call. A little quick trap play over the middle, and he'll be very close to the first down.
I think they're going to mark it, so he's got it.
Stop by Truckee, but that's the first down on the 45-yard.
Get on the tackle as linebacker Rich Truckee. Will set that defensive unit for the Hornets for you. Doug Cupp, Todd Haynes, Trent Crouch, and Brian Riley are up front for the Hornets. Parks, Juergen, Stevenson, and Truckee at the linebacking positions. Jerry Batten and Steve Schutz are at the cornerback, and at safety number 4, Buzz Griffith. Again from the I formation. And again, quickly, it's the fullback on the quick hitter, Tony Sakachi. He'll get a couple.
It's a good, strong runner. They are making good contact with him, but he doesn't come down easily.
Cup and Juergen brought him down.
It's kind of unusual to see a I-formation team getting the ball to the up-back that often.
And we'll watch when they come out in the last 2 formations. He lines up very, very close to the quarterback. Let's see if they do it again. Well, now they'll go to a split formation, 2 running backs. Alan Sherman set directly behind Anderson, and there'll be a flag and a whistle on the play. Looked like Jeff Juergens, number 64, may have jumped. Did he get pulled off? No, he didn't.
He did not. Well, that will give them a 2nd down and about 1 yard to go for another first down.
That's Tony Sakachi, who's also the captain of this Bulldog team, talking things over with referee Dave Hennigar. There you see the indication. It'll be 2nd down now and a yard to go into Mendon territory at the 46-yard line. It's quarterback Bill Anderson setting his team. Alan Sherman this time, and he'll get the first down across the 45 into about the 44-yard line. Number 62, pulling guard Robert Kreiderman was the man you saw, responsible for opening the hole for that. Ball will be spotted at the 44-yard line of Mendon. We're just underway in this Class D championship game. No score. This is the first possession by the Bulldogs of Rudyard High School.
They do vary their formations.
go with two tight ends and one split back. This is Sakachi. He's got blockers in front of him. Beautiful defense. Trent Crouch, number 32, there to break up the play, along with cornerback Steve Schutz, who came up from his position. Very strong defense on the part of Menden.
You were right, Jim. It looked like he had room, but they strung the play out and gave the cornerback plenty of time to come up and cut down what could have been a big gain to about a yard.
That'll make it 2nd and 9. We've got 9:08 left to play here in the first period from the Silverdome. Back to that I formation with Sakachi set very close to quarterback Anderson. Sherman takes the ball, bounces off a tackler, and he gets snatched up at the line of scrimmage. Number 64 there is Jeff Juergens, the 5'11", 145-pound senior linebacker off the bottom of the pile for Menden.
Well, what would appear to be a passing down with 3rd and 8. This has not been one of the strong suits of Rudyard all year. They've only thrown the ball 52 times for the entire season. We will see if they're going to put it up now.
Anderson keeps both his ends in tight. Oliver Bowden comes wide to the right in the wingback position. And they'll go to the reverse to Bowden, and he is met behind the line of scrimmage. Reading that play beautifully is end Brian Riley, number 61.
Didn't fool him. He was standing there waiting.
That will set up the 4th down situation as we take a look at the Rudyard offensive line, who's had trouble as they've gotten bogged down here at the end of this series. Hooper, Augustin, the ends, both playing in the tight end position. As we have Tracy Hooper now dropping back to his own 45. He'll be kicking the ball away.
Tracy Hooper in front for Rudyard.
Rich Truckee and Eric George will be deep for Menden.
They just about got it.
It's touched at about the 5-yard line and then bounds out of the end zone. And, well, apparently it wasn't touched. The officials will call it back on the touchback.
I think it was touched, but the momentum of the kick carried the ball through the end zone.
So the Menden defense proves worthy of the task as they stop the very explosive Rudyard Bulldogs, and the Hornets will take over now, 1st and 10 from their own 20.
A lot of two-way ball players out there, Jim.
We'll be setting those for you momentarily. Tim Jones, the only junior to be playing at quarterback all day long in these championship games today, and we'll get a flag right off the bat, and I believe it's going to go against Rudyard.
A little bit over anxious. First defensive play, and he was ready to get in there. I can't remember if we saw a wishbone team last year, Jim, but I see that Minton is coming out in a wishbone formation, and we'll see how their option play goes.
It's 1st and 5 for Menden.
It's number 21, Eric George, is their big gainer. Jerry Batten sets up close at the fullback position, and he gets the call. No, he doesn't get the call. Quarterback Tim Jones misses the handoff, and it looks like it may have been a broken play.
I think that they intended for the man that you called to get the ball, but he didn't get it quite to him and ended up losing a yard, maybe 2.
It was 1st and 5 because of the penalty, so loss of 2 on the play call. At 2nd down, 7 to go for the Hornets of Menden High School, coached by Roger Smith.
2nd down.
Jones brings the team up in the wishbone.
Very nice defensive play. The linebacker split right through the seam and picked him up just about the line of scrimmage, maybe a gain of a yard.
Doug Anderson in on the tackle, number 22, along with linebacker Robert Kreiderman for the Bulldogs of Rudyard. We'll set that defense for you. Bill Wilson, Butch Carter, Chris Ward, Mo Irwin, and Doug Anderson are up front, as Rudyard likes to play that 5-4 defense. 4 linebackers, Bill Bonney and Paul Augustin on the outside, Robert Kreiderman, Tracy Hooper on the inside, and Tony Sakachi and Oliver Bowden at the cornerback positions. 3rd and about 6. Anderson on the option, and he's got room across the 30. Flips at the last second, and all the way is going to go Eric George. He's gone.
Well, Jim, That's the way you draw the wishbone offense on the board. Eric George stayed close to the quarterback, and just as he was hit after a pretty good gain, the pitch came and he was all alone, and he wasn't going to be caught.
And Eric George takes it the rest of the way for the score, 75 yards on the option. They'll go for 2.
They closed him down there.
And that's an indication also of a very well-coached, well-disciplined ball club that can still pull off that option some 10, 15 yards down the field. And quarterback Tim Jones still knows exactly where that fullback is coming from.
Yes, and it was really interesting to watch Rudyard close in on him, to close him down and leave the pitch man wide open, and that was the story of the play. Once George got it, he was clear.
Well, that's the thing we heard about Mendon going into this game. They are explosive on offense, and we see what they mean now. 6 minutes left to go in the first period. And Mendon is all of a sudden on top, 6-0. Saw the deep man, Oliver Bowden, for the Bulldogs of Rudyard. Kickoff comes down, and it's bobbled at the 20-yard line. It's still loose.
I believe Mendon got it. I couldn't pick who it was that got there just in time. It looked like he was gaining possession of the ball, and he rode him right off the ball, left it free. And now Mendon is in a really tremendous position, 6-0, and the ball on the 20-yard line.
Number 71, Butch Carter, was the man who fielded the opening kickoff, tried to field that one and just couldn't come up with it. So Tim Jones will bring his team to the line in beautiful position. This is the first man through. That's Eric George, and that's how he gets that 9 yards of carry.
Yes, when you have 1 carry for 75 and you come back with about another 7 or 8, average is going to go up in a hurry.
2nd down and 2.
See number 4, Buzz Griffith, bring the play in. Griffith comes wide to the left. Again from the wishbone formation, Jones calls. Again, this time it's Rich Truckee, and he goes over right tackle down to about the 4-yard line. That'll be good for the first down.
It's interesting the way they're running it, Jim. They've gone to their left twice in a row, once for 75, then 7. They fake this way and come right back with a counter play. Good for a good gain. They're doing an awful lot of that with deception.
And this is also where that small squad can affect a team greatly, because you've got the same players on offense who are down now morally out on the field for Rudyard. Jones on the outside. So it takes Mendon just a minute and a half to get back on the scoreboard, and again they'll go for 2. Jones keeps again on the option.
Well, it's very clear that Rudyard's going to have to come up with some adjustments in defense, or this is going to be a blowout very early. They have shown no ability at all to control Hornets' offense yet.
20 yards in 4 plays on that scoring drive. It took them just a minute and a half.
Making it 14-0.
On the 2-point conversion for men.
That 2-point conversion on the part of the Hornets pulls them back into a substantial lead here with only 4 minutes and 32 seconds to go.
Bowden back for Rudyard.
Once again, Oliver Bowden goes deep. He's not had a chance to get the football yet. He's been a pretty explosive runner when he has gotten it. This kick will come down short. Bowden will field at his own 10-yard line. Dropped hard at the 20, and so the Bulldogs take over 1st and 10, and they've got to get something pulled together.
We have a very quiet orange crowd across the way from us, Jim. If something doesn't happen soon, I'm afraid this could be a bad blowout.
Rudyard can also be an explosive football team. Bill Anderson brings his team up in the eye. Sakachi, the quick hitter. Number 32 you see getting up is Trent Crouch. Jeff Juergens also in on the stop along with Art Stevenson. That front four for Menden doing a superb job here in the early going of this Class D championship.
Well, they, after the first couple of first downs, have effectively closed down the Rudyard offense.
Have 2 setbacks now. A quick pitch. This is Sakachi trying to get outside. He'll get out across the 30, and I think he'll be just short of the first down. Tony Sakachi.
Well, they're marking it where it's going to be very close, Jim. They're going to call for a measurement. I believe they may have it.
Time out for a measurement.
To bring the chains all the way across the field. Sakachi last week in the semifinal game against Beale City was held as they get the first down. Sakachi was held at just 52 yards in that semifinal game against Beale City last week. And that was the first time this season he's been stopped for less than 100 yards.
It's really hard for me to understand him getting such big yardage as close as he plays the line of scrimmage. It doesn't look like he can break the long one that you need to get the 8.69 yard average. But obviously he can.
There you see the remainder of that Rudyard backfield. Anderson at quarterback, Bowden and Sherman at the halfback positions, and the big man Sakachi at the fullback as they go on the option or on the reverse, and again it's read beautifully. Number 60, Mark Parks, from his outside linebacker position up to make the stop.
There's an awful lot of green turf if he beats that tackle.
Well, that's the second time now they've tried that play to Bowden. So far here in the first quarter, Menden already has 96 yards racked up on the ground to Rudyard's 28. And there is yet to be a forward pass thrown in the ball game.
Typical of both teams. There's a good draw play.
And a good tackle by Jerry Batten in the open field on Tony Sakachi.
It looked as though Bowden had a chance to throw a block that would have sprung in for more, but he ran by the defensive ball player who eventually made the tackle. Menden looks like a well-coached defensive ball club, Jim. They are sometimes being isolated one-on-one, but their ball players know how to handle it.
Again, the bigger squad, they have fewer men going both ways, and that could prove to be a difference later in the game if Rudyard can come back. There's our first pass, and it's complete to number 83, Tracy Hooper, out near the 40-yard line.
It's going to be short of the first down. I'm afraid they're going to have to punt it.
Once again, Mark Parks, the outside linebacker, out covering Hooper.
It was a very well-thrown pass. He didn't have a lot of room and laid it out there very nicely for him. Just came up about 2 yards short of what he needed.
Hooper, the man that caught the pass, will do the kicking for Rudyard.
I'm sure that Rudyard does not want to give the ball back, but they're going to have to.
They moved the ball well on the first. Oh, and they're going to go for it on fourth down as they line up.
They don't want to give it up.
Handoff to Sakachi, and he does it himself, and he's going to be very close to the first down.
I believe he got it, Jim, and as you say, he did it all by himself. There was no hole there, and he carried ball players with him for that 2 yards.
That's a very, very gutsy call. That's the fourth first down of the afternoon for Rudyard here in the first quarter, as we're just about running out of time. The clock ticks down to around a minute left. We got a minute 15 now, the first quarter of play. We'll see if that's the boost that Rudyard needed. Second man, this is Sherman. He'll get out across the 45. Give him about 4 on the play. Call it second down and 6. The ball at the Rudyard 46-yard line.
2nd and 7.
Well, they're starting to grind it out like they did in their first drive. They really do need to get on that scoreboard.
They moved the ball well in their first drive for 7 plays, got down into Mendon territory when they were stopped cold on 3 straight downs and had to kick it away. Sakachi again, and he's backed up at the line of scrimmage.
Sakachi carried the ball.
Give him maybe a yard on the play, call it 3rd and a long 5. The ball at the 47-yard line of the Bulldogs from Rudyard High School. And that is likely going to be the last play of the first quarter. 5 seconds remaining as the Bulldogs break. And there you have it. That's the end of the first quarter of play in this Class D State High School Championship. With the score of the Hornets of Mendon High School 14, the Bulldogs of Rudyard nothing. We've got a long way to go, Joe Roberson. As we've said, this Rudyard team can be explosive. Up to now, it's been 3 yards and a cloud of dust, but a gutsy 4th down and 2 call from deep in their own territory.
Well, they keep trying to punch at the middle of that line, and they're having some success, but they're in a position right now, Jim, where I think they're going to have to loosen up the Minton defense a little bit, because they're going to have a tough time doing it on that basis.
Well, certainly they're in a passing situation here. 3rd and 5 from the 47, their own 47-yard line. Again, they stay in that 7-man front, 2 tight ends. The draw play to Sakachi, and it's read beautifully. He's dropped for a 2-yard loss. There to make the stop, number 32, Trent Crouch.
Well, Sakachi ran that with 1 shoe on. He left a shoe.
Well, now it's 4th and 7 from their own 45-yard line, and I would be awfully surprised if Rudyard didn't punt this time.
4th down and 7.
Yes, it looks like they're going to.
This will be Tracy Hooper, number 83, deep to kick for Rudyard.
Shoots and Griffith back for Mendon.
Kick will come down to Steve Schutz.
He's got a wall.
He's got a line in front of him across the 40 to 35. Buzz Griffith, number 4, 5'11", 150-pound junior safety.
He split the first 2 guys down, and then he had a wall all the way. It looked like he might.
We'll take another look at it here. There you can see the blocking set up out front. That's Rich Truckee, who goes both ways. As we come back now to the wishbone offense of Rudyard, and a broken play as quarterback Tim Jones has trouble handling the exchange. And give him, well, they're spotting the ball at the original line of scrimmage, the 27-yard line. Call it 2nd and 10.
Well, that's the second missed handoff that they've had, although it hasn't really slowed them up a lot yet.
Number 41, Phil Batten, checks into the lineup for the Hornets. Joe Haas, the split end, comes out. Batten wide to the left.
There's the wide pitch, and he's got room.
1 block. Very good defensive play there by Oliver Bowden, number 36, to save, actually save the score as he fought off a block out at the 20-yard line to make the stop.
And they got enough for the first down again, Jim.
First down.
Let's take a look at the pitch again. You can see how wide open he is out here.
17-yard line.
And he has good speed.
And pretty soon Phil Bowden will come into your pitch, or Oliver Bowden. See him fight off the block here and come out to make the stop, and he is just about all that's left.
Yeah, it would have been tough to cover the angle. We have a ball player down, Jim. A member of the Menden team is on the ground. I think it's an interior lineman.
Number 75, Art Stevenson, for the Hornets, getting up rather slowly.
Fortunately, it doesn't look like it's anything serious, and I'm sure we'll see more of him before the game's over.
Art Stevenson, a senior, playing in his last high school game at 5'11", 190 pounds.
First down for Menden.
Tackle
17-yard
for Hornets. The ball will be spotted at 17-yard line. 1st and 10 for the Hornets of Menden High School. They lead in the ball game, 14-0. From that wishbone formation, it's Eric George.
Stopped by Carter and Irwin.
They really hit quickly off that left side. They bring everything over to their own right, and then they come back with that one, and it's been good for 3, 4, 5 yards every time.
Number 4, Buzz Griffith, now checks into the lineup for the Hornets. Griffith comes wide to the right. They hand off to the first man through. Big hole on the quick hitter. That's Jerry Batten.
And another first down inside the 5.
Number 62, Robert Kreiderman, 180-pound senior linebacker, saves the touchdown.
Watch how quickly they hit on this.
So quickly they got by a replay.
Yep.
9:33 left in the first half of play here from the Silver Dome in this Class D championship game. Menden on top, 14-0. They're threatening again. The keeper, and a good defensive move by, I believe it was number 22, Doug Anderson. About a yard gained on the play by quarterback Tim Jones. Call it 2nd down and goal from the 3-yard line.
2nd down, 3 yards.
Looked to me like he had room to pitch then if he had chosen to do it, Jim. He had blockers out in front of George.
Batten, George, and Truckee set behind quarterback Tim Jones. Handoff to Truckee.
Menden has shown. Here we see it again. Watch how quickly he hits. Everybody's going wide. Free shot into the end zone. And again, Menden will go for 2. And he's in.
Number 21, Eric George, hits on the inside. The same play going the other direction.
Yes.
And with 8:48 left in the first half of play, the Hornets of Menden High School go on top 22-0.
One of the Rudyard players is shaken up.
Well, so far, there has been absolutely no stopping the Menden team. Their offensive power, and Eric George is important in it, but obviously they have a couple of other backs that can run that ball too, Jim.
Well, we've got only Jerry Batten, the fullback, left to score. Eric George scored the first touchdown on the option play. With 6 minutes left in the first half, he went 75 yards. Tim Jones on an option play for 4 yards after a fumbled kickoff. And now here in the second quarter with 8:48 left to play in the half, Rich Truckee goes in from the 3-yard line. 26 yards in 6 plays. And again, all on the ground.
We have an injured Rudyard ball player on the try for the extra point. I haven't been able to pick up his number yet. He seems to be all right. He's getting up now.
Incredibly, in this first half, with still 8:48 left to play, Mendon has 8 first downs. They're averaging 8.7 yards a rush, which explains why they haven't passed the ball yet.
That's right. I can see why they haven't. Doesn't seem to be much need. I believe it's Tracy Hooper that's down on the goal line, Jim.
And that would be a blow to this small Rudyard team. Rudyard team, rather.
It's Hooper, and he is getting up and going off with just a little bit of help, but mostly under his own steam.
And to give you an idea of how people have to do a lot of things well in these Class D schools, Hooper is a tight end on offense for the Bulldogs. He's inside linebacker on defense, and he does the punting and the place kicking.
Doesn't give him much spare time during the football game.
Number 41, Phil Batten, set to kick off for the 4th time in this ball game. Oliver Bowden will be deep. Little squib kick comes down short. It's kicked around at the 34. And Glenn Goff finally has to just fall on the ball. Goff Jr., backup quarterback for the Bulldogs, has to fall on it, and Rudyard will put the ball in play. 1st and 10 from their own 34-yard line.
I think Goff did the right thing. Last time they tried to pick it up, somebody peeled them off the ball, and they ended up losing it on about their own 20. They had better be able to get something up on that board pretty quickly.
Here's the reverse. And this is the the 3rd time they've run that reverse, this time to Bowden. It's the 1st time it's picked up any yardage, and it gets only 2.
Well, it would seem to me that Rudyard's going to have to start putting the ball in the air. They can't move the ball that effectively on the ground, and being down 22-0, they cannot afford to take a long time to score.
Anderson calling the signals, has 2 setbacks behind him, and he will go to the air for the first time.
Screen pass.
This is Sakachi. He's got 3 blocks out in front of him. Fumbles.
No, they called it dead, Jim. They whistled it dead. It's going to be 1st down at about the 47. Well, some of the fans aren't happy, but I think it was a proper call. I think he fumbled the ball when he hit the turf, and as soon as he hits the turf, it's a dead ball. We can watch it again. They set the screen up very nicely, and Siachi catches it. You will see when he's hit right here. He still has possession.
As he goes to the ground at the end of that replay, he still had the football. Good call. 1st and 10 for the Bulldogs from their own 46-yard line. This is Sakachi again. Skips a tackle at the line of scrimmage. He'll get into Mendon territory at about the 48-yard line. Give him 5 on play. Give him 6. Call it 2nd and 4.
It's a good, strong runner. You do not bring him down with an arm tackle.
It was good work by Jerry Batten from his cornerback position on that screen pass. Sakachi had plenty of blocking out in front of him. He just fought off the blockers and made the tackle. From that I formation, Sakachi on the quick hitter, there's nothing there. Quickly, Trent Crouch and Todd Haynes stack up the middle of that Rudyard line.
You can see the linebacker and the deep back coming up right to the hole where Rudyard was trying to run the ball and filled it in a hurry.
We said Mendon has been averaging 8.7 yards a carry. The longest gain from scrimmage for Rudyard so far is 7 yards. Or there's the 11 yards, which was a pass on the rush play. Rushing play is just 7 yards. Sakachi, they'll try to get outside with him.
Got the 1st down.
Number 74 tackle Mo Irwin leading the blocking out front of Tony Sakachi.
He was knocked out of bounds by Tuck. First down for Rudyard.
And interestingly enough, as much as it would appear that Mendon is dominating this football game, both teams now have 6 first downs.
Well, a long touchdown run and a turnover inside the 20 really opened it up.
And this is the point at their own 40-yard line where things have stalled for the Bulldogs in the past. They've got 6 minutes. Quarterback sneak, and there's big hole over center. Bill Anderson just about gets the first down. He'll be very close to his own 30.
Jim, that was really an excellent call. They have been trying to cut Siachi off the guards, and they move up quickly, and Anderson kept the ball.
2nd and 1.
It was, as we saw at the head end of that replay, it was just almost a quarterback draw. He did take a step back like he was going to go back for the pass and then duck inside. 2nd down, 1 to go. This is Sakachi. He gets room, bounces off of tacklers to the 20, 18-yard line.
He is one fine back. Very little of the yardage he's getting is free yardage. He is having to earn a good deal of what he gets.
Brought down by Griffin and Sampson. It's another first down.
Ball will be spotted at the 18-yard line of Mendon. 5:16 left in the first half. We said earlier, Tony Sakachi's already set an individual scoring record for a single season in Michigan high school football. We'll get back to that in a minute. This is Sakachi again. He's not going to score on that play.
Sakachi under the line.
.445 now left in the first half here from the Silverdome. Sakachi already has 260 points to his credit this season, and with this game to go, he scored 4 touchdowns in the quarterfinal 34-12 victory over Indian River. He'll set at that up back position. You can see him on the far right of your screen. Which comes to Bowden. He's got blockers in front of him and then gets tripped up.
Beautiful play.
Mark Parks from his linebacker position makes a good defensive play. Couple of yards on the play. The ball spotted inside the 20. 3rd down, about 6 to go. There you see the situation on Sakachi for the season. He's been averaging 8 yards a carry. I don't think he's carried the ball, save for maybe that last time, for that many yards in this ball game yet. This is Sakachi on the quick pitch.
Now that Mendon defense moved out to catch him in a hurry.
Art Stevenson and Rich Truckee lead the charge. Mark Parks finally brings him down.
This may be the biggest play of the game for Rudyard. They do need to go in.
Well, they can't afford to settle for 3 here. And even if they could, their place kicker, Tracy Hooper, is still being attended to on the far sideline. They'll try to throw it in. Intercepted and then dropped by Buzz Griffith, but that'll be enough to stop the drive.
Well, I think he had his man open. He just underthrew him a little bit. If he had gotten the ball up in the air, I think they would have had it. Well, Rudyard has not been able to stop Minton yet. We'll see if they can do it with 2:54 left. 88 yards away.
And the Bulldogs actually hurt themselves on that drive. We'll talk about that in a minute. And Mendon is going to go to the air, or at least think about it. Tim Jones couldn't find anybody open and turns disaster into about a 5-yard gain.
He had only sent one man, and he was going deep down the middle, Jim, and he couldn't get through the traffic.
2nd down and 5.
You take a look at Ken Bickle, the Rudyard Bulldog coach. Can't be too terribly happy right now. As Bulldogs drove for 51 yards, took 12 plays, and ate up about 6 minutes of the second quarter and come away without a score. That's got to hurt. This is Eric George. He'll have the first down.
George carrying the ball to the right.
He's a hard running back.
Brought down by Carter. Bobby and Mo Irwin. And on the play, too, it's a first down.
Two minutes and 3 seconds left in the first half. Mendon with the football and the big lead, 22-0 from the wishbone formation. This is the first man through, fullback Jerry Batten. He'll get about 4 or 5.
Brought down by Kreiderman. And Goffin on the play, too.
Well, let's see if they're setting them up for the wide pitch coming this way, Jim. They have gone up the middle 2 or 3 times in a row now.
Buzz Griffith checks into the lineup with a play, and he'll come wide to this side of the field, number 4. As we take a look at Roger Smith, the coach of Mendon, getting some instructions from upstairs. They do come this way, and they come wide. This is Eric George. George will get about 11 on the play across the 40 to the 41-yard line.
You could almost feel it coming. You know that's an effective play for them.
And we'll take another look.
Good pitch. And that young man knows what to do with it when he gets the football.
And you can see a very, very good read on the part of quarterback Tim Jones out of this option offense. That's Rich Truckee again. He'll get out to about the 45-yard line as we're under a minute to play here in the first half.
2nd and 7.
And a very quick first half it's been, as we've only had 2 balls put in the air. Mendon, yes, has yet to throw a forward pass.
Well, we're going to see it now. No, and he's open.
They go for it all and get it. This is Doug Kopp at the 5, and he'll be hit just short of the goal line.
Did they leave him alone? He was out behind everyone, a beautifully thrown pass. And now with 21 seconds to go in the half, Minden has a chance to add to their lead.
Play covers 48 yards, and the ball will be spotted at the 3-yard line. Tony Sakachi saved the touchdown, at least for the time being, with 21 seconds left. And Mendon wants a timeout to think things over.
Well, I guess if you're not going to pass much, that's a good time to do it and a good way to do it.
Kopp had his man beat by a good 5 yards.
And the ball was laying in perfectly because he didn't have to break stride.
Well, it's obvious that Mendon chooses not to throw the ball. It's not a matter of not being able to.
No, and that's really an effective way to do it, Jim. They don't throw the ball for the whole first half. They have everybody up tight, punching and trying to close down that wishbone offense, and all of a sudden, bang. It's very reminiscent of Oklahoma, who very rarely throws the ball, but sometimes quite effective when they get it off.
Well, it's been a very, very, as we said, very, very quick first half. That's only the 3rd pass of the first half. Mendon has thrown that one. Rudyard has thrown 2, and one of those was complete. And there have only been 2 penalties. 2 very well coached football teams. Both of them in the first series of plays, defensive offside, where both teams are adjusting to the Silver Dome and the excitement of a state championship football game. With 21 seconds left in the first half, the Hornets of Mendon will put the ball in play, 1st and goal from their 3-yard line. Jones, hand to his first man through. There's the indication it's a touchdown. Number 1, Jerry Batten. We'll take another look. Batten is the up back in that wishbone, and you can see the hole open up for him.
Very quick hitting.
And And that drive in less than 2 minutes covered 88 yards, 48 of them on that pass from quarterback Tim Jones rather to Doug Cupp. And again, they'll go for 2.
And it's George. Well, it's not hard to see how Minden ran up those impressive scores all year. They are a fine offensive football team.
Well, there you see the situation. Minden on top, 30-0.
Well, it's interesting, Jim. 7 times this year they scored over 40 points in games. And you can certainly see how.
And talk about balance. They've scored 4 touchdowns in this ball game, and all 4 backs each have a score. Eric George, Tim Jones, Rich Truckee, and Jerry Batten. Swede took a look there at number 36, Oliver Bowden, deep for Minden. Won't have time for much more than just the kickoff here, with just 17 seconds left in the first half. Phil Batten has had plenty of time to practice his kicking. This will be the 5th time the Minden senior has booted the ball as they kicked off initially to the Bulldogs.
We still haven't found out if they have a punter.
Good kick this time. It'll come down at the 20-yard line. 22 is Doug Anderson. He just about gets outside. They'll bring it back to the 30-yard line, and there'll be time for maybe one play.
And Little. First down on the 30-yard line.
Again, Rudyard has moved the football in this first half. They've got 7 first downs to 8 from Minden. However, 3 of those 8 first downs are touchdowns.
Yes. And their time has run out.
And so that will end the first half of play with the score, the Hornets of Minden High School 30, the Bulldogs of Rudyard nothing. And in our pregame notes, Joe, it said that Minden had an explosive offense, and they've certainly proved that to us in the first half, no doubt about it.
They have not been stopped at all. Every drive has ended up in a touchdown. They have yet to punt, and they haven't had to put out an awful lot of effort. It just seems like it flows naturally for them.
Well, I've got to believe in that locker room at halftime, one of the things that Coach Roger Smith is going to be talking to his Minden Hornets about is their quarterfinal game. In that quarterfinal game against Gobles, Minden trailed 22-6 after 3 quarters, so they know what it's like to make a comeback and win, and he's not going to want them to forget that and slack off any here in the second half.
No, absolutely not, and Rudyard's going to have to do something differently defensively, or they're going to be in deep trouble. They've shown no ability at all to maintain Minden in their offense. The variety of backs all coming from different angles, and there's been no way to stop them so far.
And on offense, Rudyard has not looked at, as we said, has not looked that badly. They've moved the ball well. They had one drive of 55 yards that covered, about 8 minutes, where they moved the ball very well, but got stopped short.
Came up empty, and that's what they can't afford to do in the second half. They expect to get back in this ball game.
And as we said after that last score, Minden now has 4 touchdowns in this first half, and all 4 backs have scored one. Probably the most impressive was that first touchdown from the point of view of a well-coached wishbone offense.
Absolutely. The quarterback pitched it at just the right moment. He was sitting going down, and once the ball got in George's hand, it was Katie bar the door because he was gone. There was no one near him.
And Jones was easily 15 yards down the field on that option play before he made the pitch. Jones then himself scored on the ensuing kickoff. The ball was fumbled inside the 20-yard line, and from there Minden came right back. It took them just a minute and a half to put 6 more points on the board, and this time their 2-point conversion was good. They went on top 14-0. That was a score at the end of the first quarter. Then in the second quarter, Rich Truckee went in from 3 yards, and again, that was as a result of a turnover deep in Rudyard territory. And then finally, with time running out in the first half and a situation where you think a team would be willing to just set on that lead and get into the locker room, they threw their first pass of the ball game. And quite a pass it was, covering 48 yards down to the 3-yard line to set up the final score of this first half, and that one by fullback Jerry Batten. We're going to take another look momentarily at that 48-yard pass play, or the last touchdown, rather, by Jerry Batten. And as you could see from the way the Mendon offensive line moved Rudyard off the line for that score, that's pretty exemplary of what the entire afternoon or morning has been so far.
Exactly. Their line is blocking well, and their deception is going well. They're coming at them from every angle, and Rudyard has shown no ability to try to adjust to it at all yet. That's got to be what they're doing in the locker room right now, is trying to figure out some way to cut off those options.
Okay, and we can't forget Tony Sikachi, the young man for Rudyard, the fullback, who has already set a scoring record for a single season for Michigan high school athletics, period. He has over 260 points scored. So this Rudyard team has the ability as well to be explosive.
Well, they've scored a lot of points this year, and I think it was only in one game that they got shut out totally, but so far they have not been able to move the ball effectively enough to get it into the end zone. It does seem to me that about the only way they're going to be able to come back is to move the ball and keep it out of the hands of Minden. Minden has shown if they have the ball, they can move it, and maybe long, impressive drives by Rudyard is going to have to be the way they come back.
And I think, what did we count, Joe, in the pregame? 24 players dressed on that Rudyard squad?
I think they have 23. Maybe one was sick, I think.
That's got to be difficult, too, because with a larger roster and you've got more people you don't have to play as many people both ways. You get a chance to come off of there offensively and regroup, gain your momentum again. But these kids are getting torn apart both ways, and that's going to hurt.
Exactly, and one of their best ball players was hurt there toward the end of the first half and was still on the bench at the end, and to lose a quality ball player when you only have 23 with you is certainly a painful thing.
Especially, although place kicking doesn't appear to be significant in this ball game, he does the punting as well. So we'll have to see what effect that has on the second half. Of course, Rudyard will have to kick off and give the ball right back to Menden when we start the second half, and we'll be back for that kickoff in just a moment. Second half action of this Class D Michigan State High School Athletic Association Football Championship. The Hornets of Menden High School on top in this ball game, 30-0, and they have dominated this ball game both offensively and defensively, Joe.
Yes, there's been no question about it. Their ability to move the ball has been awesome, and while Rudyard has been able to do a little bit of movement, they really have not been able to get the ball into the end zone. And now here they're faced with a 30-0 deficit, and they're going to kick off.
Okay, and there the applause you hear in the background is from the Hornets fans as the Hornets of Menden High School make their way back to the field in a very confident position. A very quick first half and well-played first half, Joe. There were only 3 passes thrown in the entire half.
Yes, 2 of those were complete, and of course the big one was the one that put Menden in a position for their last score. 2 penalties, both of those very early. Obviously, first game or championship game jitters that caused those. Very clean ball game.
And if you just joined us, the first touchdown, probably the most indicative of the well-disciplined team that Menden High School has. A pitch out from Tim Jones, a quarterback, coming easily 15 yards down the field on the option play. And the wishbone offense that Menden runs is not an easy offense to run.
No, they've missed a couple of handoffs, but they haven't been too painful through them because they've always been able to come back with the plays they've needed. As we said at the end of the first half, not a punch yet, so they obviously are having no difficulty moving the ball whatsoever.
And Rudyard, in fact, has moved the ball pretty well themselves. As we take a look at the stats, and you can see that in looking at those, it's difficult until you get down to total yards to tell that the score is 30-0. Both teams with 7 first downs. As we said, only 3 passes thrown in the ball game, but the big difference is that 54-yard pass on the part of Menden, setting up that last score and putting the game very close to being just out of reach. And of course, on the ground, Menden just dominating this football game.
Yes, and of course, when you get 1 touchdown with only needing 19 yards as a result of a turnover, that doesn't reflect in the statistics except in the important one, of course, and that is the score.
And we take a look up here at the scoreboard in the Pontiac Silverdome, and we're happy to see that WFUM TV is being welcomed by the folks in Pontiac.
Well, it's got to be a very terrifying thing for Rudyard to be kicking the ball off to this awesome offensive team.
And the kick will come down short at the 18-yard line. It's pitched back.
Well, they wanted Eric George to have the ball in his hands, that's for sure.
Brought down by Doug Anderson and Round Road.
And it's hard to say with a team that's got an offensive threat like this that there's one person you'd rather see with the football.
Yeah, I think as you indicated, 4 of them have scored, haven't they? All of their starting backs?
All 4 people in the backfield. We'll set the defensive alignment for the Bulldogs after this first play from scrimmage. As you can see, Tim Jones brings his team up in that wishbone. Fumble!
Well, there may be the turnover.
The Bulldogs come up with a football. Number 71 there off the bottom with the ball is Butch Carter, a 210-pound senior tackle.
Well, Jim, as we were talking at the end of the first half, the wishbone offense is not an easy one to run, and there was a mishandoff. I don't think Eric George ever had complete possession. He certainly wasn't hit as he fumbled. And the turnover puts the ball in good position for Rudyard.
It's at the Hornets' 30 or 28-yard line, rather. Bill Anderson now calling the signals. This is Sakachi.
Oh, he's an excellent runner.
Tony Sakachi, 5'9", 188-pound senior, already holds a individual season scoring record for Michigan High School athletics.
There were 3 or 4 defensive ball players that had contact with him, but he puts his shoulders toward that goal line and keeps going in that direction.
A 12-yard gain, a first down at the 16-yard line of the Hornets of Menden. If you just joined us, we're just underway in the second half. Menden on top in this Class D championship, 30-0. Quick hitter, and that's going to be for maybe a yard into the 15-yard line.
Well, if Rudyard can score, maybe they can make a ball game out of it.
Joe, how you doing?
We'll set that Menden defense for you. We've got Doug Cupp, Todd Haynes, Trent Crouch, and Brian Riley. The front 4 for the Hornets: Mark Parks, Jeff Juergens, Art Stevenson, and Rich Truckee at the linebacking position, and Jerry Batten and Steve Schutz and Buzz Griffith in the defensive secondary for the Hornets of Menden. Now Bill Anderson brings his team to the line, a mix-up at the line, and he'll go for a 3 or 4 yard loss back at the 19-yard line. Yet once again, the ball gets inside the 20, and it looks like the Bulldogs are going to be driven back. The ball at the 19-yard line now of the Menden Hornets. Third down, call it, 13 to go for the first down.
Well, maybe we'll see another pass, Jim. I would think they've got to throw it.
The 2 ends, Tracy Hooper and Paul Augustin, stay in the tight end position. Neither one of them has been flanked during the whole ball game. Anderson wants to throw. The rush is on. This is Sakachi, or rather Sherman, and was it caught in the air?
Incomplete.
Nope. Ruled incomplete.
Tremendous blitz came from the left side. He just did have time to get rid of it, and the screen was set up well. If the ball had been caught, could have been a big gainer.
Alan Sherman out in the flat. That's the first time he's come close to even having his hands on the football. As we take another look and watch this blitz come in from the right side. Number 32 there was Trent Crouch putting the pressure on, and you can see the ball did hit the AstroTurf before number 61, Brian Riley, could come up with it. It's ruled incomplete. It'll be 4th down now and 13. And again, Anderson will drop the pass, and again the rush is on.
Well, obviously we're ready to pass. Minden's ready to defend against it. He has had no time either occasion. Watch the pressure.
It doesn't look like Trent Crouch, who's the same man in there again, was ever touched. Anderson's able to get away from him, but there's just too much pressure by this point. Number 64 is Jeff Juergens. Number 88 is Doug Cupp.
And they not only didn't get the pass off, they lost 12 yards in addition to push them even further back.
So the Hornets take over from their own 30. That's Jerry Batten, the fullback. He'll get 7 or 8 on the play, out across the 35 to the 38-yard line. Call it 2nd down and 2 for the Hornets.
Minden has them watching for the wide stuff so intently that middle opens up for them.
Buzz Griffith, number 4, checks into the Minden huddle. Out comes Joe Haas at the split end position. Griffith will go wide to the right. Again, the wishbone formation. Batten, George, and Truckee set behind the quarterback. This is George, and he'll have the 1st down across the 40-yard line. Number 71, Butch Carter, and number 52, Chris Ward, come up off the bottom of the pile for the Bulldogs of Rudyard.
It didn't appear to me that he had full possession of that ball either. That was close to being a fumble.
Set that Rudyard defense for you now. Bill Wilson and Doug Anderson at the ends. Butch Carter and Mo Irwin at the tackles. Chris Ward is in at middle guard. He's a junior. Bill Bonney, Tracy Hooper, Robert Kreiderman, and Paul Augustin at the linebacking positions. Tony Sakachi and Oliver Bowden at the cornerbacks. This is Truckee, and he'll get a couple off right tackle. 2nd and 8 from the 42-yard line of the Hornets of Minden High School. They lead in this ball game 30-0.
2nd down and 8.
Rudyard has played everybody up really tight this half, and maybe that's part of the reason they're doing a little better job of containing the offense, but it also looks to me like they could be vulnerable to either the wide pitch or another of those deep passes.
We'll go with the option, and there's room outside with a block for Truckee. He gets it. He's across the 50 to the 45-yard line. That'll be another 1st down. A gain of 13 on the play.
Exactly what I was talking about, Jim. They have everybody up tight, and you get somebody outside of them, and it's awfully hard to contain them.
It's the 9th 1st down in the ball game for the Hornets as they continue to move and move it well on the ground. 2nd man through, Truckee again. He'll get a couple of more.
Truckee carried the ball.
Number 89 there is Bill Wilson.
Second down and 6.
Number 4 checking into the lineup, Buzz Griffith.
Minden is really mixing their plays up well. They stay inside until they tighten up that defense, and they go with a wide pitch, and that wide pitch is always good for a few yards.
Tim Jones keeps on the bootleg, and it's read beautifully. Beautiful defensive play by Doug Anderson.
He was the only one there, but he made his presence known. He caught quarterback before he ever got a chance to look upfield. I don't think the only receiver they sent out was open anyway, Jim, but it looked like he might have room to run.
Loss of 6 on the play. Call it 3rd down now and 16 as the Hornets move back in their own territory to the 49-yard line. 6.5 minutes left in the 3rd period of play from the Silverdome. Class D high school championship football. On the option, the deep pitch to George. He's got some room inside the 45 to about the 43-yard line. He's run out of bounds on the far side of the field.
Jim, this may be a first for the day. Minden may be in a position to punt. We'll see if they decide to do it, but
they're almost in 4-down territory, and with a 30-point lead, we'll see. Well, Steve Schutz, number 10, their punter, is checked into the lineup. And he will kick it away. He'll stand at his own 45-yard line. Oliver Bowden will go into single safety for the Bulldogs. You see Bowden. High end-over-end kick. It'll come up short. Bowden will let it hit at the 20.
It was touched back at the 20 by one of the Minden defenders.
Number 44 for Minden, Joe Haas, I think hit the football and went off the front of his jersey. That's what the officials rule. And the ball will be put into play at the 20-yard line, and the Bulldogs of Rudyard have to get things started. They trail 30-0.
Well, 3 times they've been down where possibility of scoring existed, have not been able to convert.
Menden able to eat up a lot of time in this third quarter clock. 8 plays on that drive. Deep pitch a little high to Sakachi. He needs a block. After all is said and done, he gets driven out of bounds close to the 30, and he'll be close to the first down. Tony Sakachi.
2nd and 1.
You will see Sakachi now coming wide to this side. He has better speed than he appears to have, and a pretty good block is going for him. And then he cracks through a couple of defenders to get himself up to within a yard of first down.
Mower with number 74, the tackle for the Bulldogs, leading the blocking. Sakachi had 65 yards in the first half rushing, so he's going to be well on his way to that 100-yard mark again. Fumble!
Minden has it. That's just about the last thing that Rudyard needed right there, is to turn the ball over that deep in their own territory with a 30-0 deficit going.
Now that says it all right there, Ken Bickle, head coach of Rudyard. Brian Riley, number 61, the man to come up with a football for the Hornets. Number 20, Tim Jones, brings his team to the line. He
goes all alone, all alone. Beautiful pass. Absolutely no one in the Silver Dome expecting that play. Here Doug alone, number 88 becomes. No one near him. That's got to be a quarterback's dream, Jim, to look out there and find a receiver that alone.
Doug Cupp, number 88 on the reception. He's the young man who took the 54-yard pass in the first half. 28 yards from Tim Jones. The conversion by Phil Batten is good, and so with 5:16 left in the third period of play, the Hornets of Minden High School go on top 37-0.
A one-play turnover. Turned over on the first play.
Well, now Joe Haas and Buzz Griffith have been alternating, bringing plays in at the other tight end position. They're the only 2 players, offensive players, eligible to score a touchdown left for Minden.
Well, there's plenty of time left, Jim.
For 41, Phil Batten set to do the kicking off for the Hornets.
He's going to have a tired leg. He's been doing a lot of that.
And, of course, doubling at the fullback position. He's got a touchdown in the ball game. He also goes at the cornerback position. Batten, a 5'8", 150-pound senior. Little squib kick comes down at the 32-yard line.
I think they're going to rule his knee down.
Number 20, Paul Augustin, fielded the football, but of course in high school football, when his knee is on the ground, it's a dead ball, and that's what the officials rule. Once again, if you joined us late, the officials for this morning's Class D game, Dave Hennigar of Trenton is the referee. The umpire, Robert McNiven. James Laginus from River Rouge is the linesman, and the line judge, William McGrath of Wyandotte, Michigan. As the Bulldogs of Rudyard try to get some points on the scoreboard in this Class D championship, and Anderson will go to the air. Looks for Sakachi, in and out of his hands, but he was well defended. Steve Schutz over to cover on the play along with Trent Crouch.
He was only going to have a yard, maybe two, if he catches the ball. Even their pass offense seems geared to short gains. They have not thrown anything deep. If they're going to get back in this ball game, they're going to have to throw something deep.
And everything at this point is centered around Sakachi. Rudyard now 1 of 4 in the passing department. All 4 of them have been short ones, and all of them catchable. Anderson rolls to his right. Again, the hard rush is on downfield, almost intercepted.
Almost picked off.
Intended receiver there for the Bulldogs, number 45, Glenn Gluff.
Now, this has got to be a difficult position for a team, Jim. They have not relied upon the pass all year, and here they are in a situation where they almost got to be throwing the ball regularly, and it's going to be a very difficult adjustment, I'm sure.
And at 37-0, the Mendon Hornets can afford to take some chances in that secondary. Heavy rush on. It's a wobbly pass on.
Awful lot of green in front of him if he picks it off.
Scott Sampson just about, well, he saw the end zone before he saw the ball. Well, that'll set up the 4th down situation for the Bulldogs. Actually, in 4th and 2 from this point in the first half, they went for it.
Number 32, Trent Crouch for Mendon, has been putting tremendous pressure on almost every time that Rudyard tried to throw the ball.
Tracy Hooper does the kicking for the Bulldogs. He's standing at his own 20-yard line. Gets his kick away, a long end-over-end kick. It'll come down and is fielded by Griffith at the 38, and he comes up across the 50 to about the 48-yard line. Buzz Griffith. And the Hornets will put the ball in play again, this time right at the midfield stripe.
He had a pretty good wall set up again, Jim.
Here you can see the ball setting on some makeshift hash marks. At about 7 o'clock this morning, somebody realized that they hadn't marked the high school hash marks on the field. Of course, the field line for pro football for the Lions game. This is Jerry Batten, the fullback. He'll get about 5 on the play down to the 45-yard line. Up off the bottom of the pile, number 54, Fran Meyer. Second down, call it long 5 to go for the Hornets of Mendon High School. They lead in the football game 37-0. 3:43 left in the 3rd period of play. This is Tim Jones, the quarterback. To George, and he'll get stopped right about at the line of scrimmage. Give him a couple on the play.
Well, Jim, if the pattern holds now, they've gone up the middle twice. See if they run the wide option again.
The offensive line for the Hornets just controlling that line of scrimmage. Brian Riley and Art Stevenson at the tackles, Jeff Juergens, Mark Parks at the guards, and Tom Hope over the ball at center for the Hornets. And even on a play that's closed down like that, still gets him a yard or two.
The Rudyard defense is up tight again. Oops.
Jones slips and falls, and he was thinking pass.
I think there's no question about it. He had 2 men deep.
He had Truckee out in a swing-back position. He had Joe Haas long. Haas, one of those players that hadn't scored yet. Maybe they wanted to get him some points.
Yeah. And he had Cup out again, too, on this side.
Steve Schutz checks into the lineup. He's the punter for the Hornets. This is just their 2nd punt of the football game. He'll stand at his own 40-yard line. Gets a low snap, gets his kick away. It's high, and it'll be short. It's going to hit up around the 24, 23-yard line. Takes a Mendon bounce, continues to bounce down to the 12, and that's where the Bulldogs will put things into play. They've got 88 yards to go to get on the scoreboard. 2:44 left in the football game, or left in the third period, rather.
It seems like enough points that it ought to be the end of the game, Jim, but
I imagine there are some restless Bulldog fans over there that feel that it may be over.
well, I think I see some new numbers out there for Minden. Maybe they're going to let some of the younger kids start to play now.
From the I formation, Bill Anderson has Tony Sakachi set behind him. Sakachi gets the call. Breaks a couple of tackles out at the 20. He's loose across the 25, the 30. Stays on his feet, and that was an individual effort all the way.
What a fine run. They had him stopped 2 or 3 different times, but he didn't know it. Watch the individual effort. They have him there, and he doesn't want to go down. Cuts back here, and still is going to drag some ball players with him. Excellent, excellent run.
Almost to the 40-yard line.
I think some of the younger ball players that I mentioned before just came out, Jim.
2 setbacks now behind quarterback Bill Anderson. 1st and 10 from the 40-yard line. Quick pitch again to Sakachi. He's got a block out in front of him. Beautiful defensive play by number 36, Rich Truckee.
Truckee fought the block off very effectively and still got in to make the tackle.
Mower went out front. He had put the block on Truckee and then slid off of him. Felt he had him out of the play and went on to the cornerback.
But even at that, Sakachi picks up 5 yards.
It's 29 yards on the last carry, 4 yards on that one. So Sakachi is certainly over the 100-yard mark once again in this football game. There's that quarterback sneak, and again it works successfully across midfield to the 44-yard line. Goes Bill Anderson.
Yes, Anderson dips his shoulder into the right, gets the flow going that way, and then comes right back off his center's left side.
Brought down by Griffith and Shoes. It's a first down. Ball on the 44.
That's 9 first downs now for Rudyard, or 10 rather, as they've, as we've said all along, they have shown that they can move the football in this game, but when they get into Hornet territory, the Hornets just get tough. That's where they are right now, and this will be Sakachi again. Tries to go over the top, and he gets upended inside the 40-yard line of the Hornets.
Brought down by Shoes.
Give him 5 on the play. Call it 2nd down and 5. This is the kind of individual effort that Sakachi puts forth. You can tell that he wants to add to that record of most touchdowns in a season by an individual player in Michigan High School Athletic Association.
Well, he's having an excellent running day.
2nd and 5.
This is Sherman. Sherman goes off tackle inside the 35. He'll be about a yard short of the first down.
So the end of the quarter.
So a very fast third quarter. Again, not much passing. And at the end of the third quarter, the score, the Hornets of Mendon High School. And you can hear their fans down directly below us sensing that victory, are on top of the Bulldogs of Rudyard High School, 37-0.
Yes, you kind of have to like the chances, Jim. 12 minutes to go in a 37-0 lead. They can probably start their celebration a little bit early.
Not a bad position to be in at all. Mendon was a slight favorite coming into the ball game. I don't think anybody really expected the game to be quite this wide open. See the Bulldog cheerleaders on the far side of the field trying to keep the spirit of their school up. Again, no real losers here today. All of these teams have played long, hard seasons.
Yes, it's got to be a thrill just to be here. As I mentioned to you when I came in this morning, I am continually impressed every time I come into this facility to what an excellent, excellent facility it is. And it's got to be a big thrill for young men like these to have an opportunity to play for the championship, and you're right, nobody really loses.
And again, only 2 penalties in this football game, which is incredible with the kind of tension and pressure that's on these young kids. This is Tony Sakachi again. He'll be inside the 30. He'll have the first down.
He's lost his shoe again, Jim. He's having a tough time keeping that on. So it hasn't slowed him down a whole lot, I guess.
Many of these young men are seniors playing in their the last high school football games of their career. This is Sherman, looks for a block. Good move by number 88, Doug Cupp, to keep that playoff tackle for going for a big gain.
Well, this has been the place where Rudyard has stalled so many times today. They've been down there within striking distance, the 30, the 25, the 20, and just have been unable to put together the drive that's needed to put it in.
Well, they have it now, 2nd and 8 from the 25-yard line of the Menden Hornets, and have put together quite an impressive drive on this series. It started back on their own 13-yard line. There's that little quarterback quick hitter in the middle. This time it's stacked up for about 3 or 4 yards. Anderson's been successful with that. The other 2 times he's carried for about 12 yards on each carry.
Well, about 4 yards to go. Kind of like to see him at least get one drive that culminates in a touchdown.
Number 89, Bill Wilson, checks into the lineup for the Bulldogs with a play from Coach Ken Bickle. 2 setbacks, Sakachi and Bowden behind Anderson. Quick pitch to Sakachi. He's got some room. Battles his way inside the 15. He'll have the first down. Tony Sakachi, and you can see there he looks like a tired young man, and well, he should be.
Well, he's had his hands on the ball an awful lot today, and he's also played some good defense.
We said before, only 23 players on this Rudyard Bulldog team, and so they've many of them have had to go both ways, and they're going to be tired at the end of this one. 9:50 left in this Class D championship football game. Bulldogs looking to get on the scoreboard. Draw play. This is Sakachi. He'll be there.
Well, a little bit of life on the orange side of the stadium, Jim. First time they've really had a chance to cheer since 75-yard touchdown by George early in the first quarter.
15-yard score by Tony Sakachi, and he took the ball most of the way himself on that 87-yard drive. We'll take another look at it. Good draw play, sets up very nicely.
He's a tough man to stop once he gets that kind of momentum going.
It's surprising that a team that's only passed 6 times in the entire ball game can pull off a draw play that successfully.
Exactly. It's been a long time since they've run a pass play.
A go for 2. Sakachi looks for the corner. He'll get there.
Yes. Well, he adds to that high school single-season scoring record by a touchdown and a 2-point conversion.
An 87-yard drive on the part of Rudyard High School. The 2-point conversion, the score 37-8.
Jim, it's looked all day like they were capable of doing that kind of thing. They just kept getting bogged down deep in the Minden territory, but that time they finally finished it off.
12 plays on that drive, all of them on the ground. .941 left in the football game, and it looks like the Menden Hornets will be taking a championship back to the western part of the state with them. Here you see number 21, Eric George, deep to take this kickoff from that young man, Mr. Batten. Check that. It's Bill Anderson who does the kicking off for the Bulldogs. They go for the onside kick, and there's a flag on the play.
From where it's thrown, it must be offside, Jim.
That's what the preliminary indication is.
Well, must say that Rudyard has not given up. They're going to try an onside kick and see if they can get that ball back and do it again.
Well, Mendon may remember that they trailed 22-6 after 3 full quarters in their quarterfinal game. Came back to win that one in overtime.
Well, I guess after watching the replay 5 or 6 times of the Stanford, California finish of a couple weeks ago, I can believe almost anything in a football game.
Just about anything can happen. Mendon now brings an extra man up front, gets some sure hands up there. Low squeak kick, goes a little long, it's batted around. Fielded at the 33-yard line, and that's going to be about all. Number 32 is Trent Crouch.
He's played a very, very excellent defensive football game. He has pressured the quarterbacks for Rudyard all afternoon when they've attempted to throw.
Well, Mendon will put the ball in play now at their own 35-yard line. The clock running with 9:25 left in the football game. Mendon leading 37-8. Number 20, Tim Jones, stays in at quarterback from that wishbone. Handoff is the first man, Jerry Batten. He'll get a couple. Number 54 off the bottom of the pile there for the Bulldogs of Rudyard is Fran Mayer. Give him 4 on the play, call it 2nd and 6.
2nd down and 6.
There you see Buzz Griffith checking into the lineup for the Hornets. He and Joe Haas have been shuttling plays back and forth from head coach Roger Smith. Jerry Batten, Eric George, and Rich Truckee set behind quarterback Tim Jones. On the out,
very nice defensive play.
It's Doug Anderson. He's just a junior.
It's one of the few times that Mendon has not been able to get the pitch off, and I think it's one of the few times they've run it to the short side of the field, Jim. They've usually been going wide with that to the wide side.
Bulldogs have 4 juniors in their defensive alignment that you saw there momentarily. Bill Wilson is a junior defensive end. Doug Anderson at the other end is also a junior. And in the middle of that line, Chris Ward anchors at middle guard. He's a 5'11", 165-pound junior. And Paul Augustin at outside linebacker is a junior.
If they were taking too much time, they were going to get 5.
Timeout for Mendon.
And wisely, Tim Jones of the Hornets calls timeout. Another example of just how well coached these two teams are in terms of their discipline and being aware of the entire atmosphere around them in the ball game.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what kind of play selection you make on 3rd and 9 with a 37-8 lead and 7:50 to go in the ball game.
Take a look at both benches now as we get the figures. 11,159 fans on hand for this first session of High School Athletic Association Championships here in Michigan. And of course, while you'll be seeing this around the state at various times in the next several weeks, this is the first game of 4 to be played on this Thanksgiving Saturday in Michigan at the Silverdome in Pontiac.
Well, it's got room.
Bowden looks for a block and gets it. Turns the corner at the 50 and then is run out of bounds at the 48-yard line.
It's that wide pitch going on the wide side of the field has been good for 10 to 20 most every time they've tried it.
First down.
Number 36, Rich Truckee, 5'10", 180-pound senior.
Ball's on the 48-yard line. First
Tim Jones, the quarterback on this Hornet team that runs that option so well from the wishbone, is just a junior.
Well, they'll be happy to have him back.
And he'll have Eric George behind him next year as well. Batten and Truckee will both graduate after this football game. This is Eric George, and he finds a hole inside the 45 to almost the 40-yard line. He'll spot it just outside the 40. Gain of 8 on the play. Call it 2nd and 2.
Again, the sequencing of their plays, Jim, is really nice to watch. They went wide with that, fake to that man last play. This time they come right back and give it to him, and he finds a very nice hole for 8 yards.
There you see the situation. 2nd and 2. 37 to 8. The Hornets of Mendon High School on top in this Class D game, and we'll have a flag. The third penalty of this football game with 7:06 remaining.
Yeah, someone on the left side of the Mendon line straightened up a little bit early.
There you see the indication, illegal procedure against the Hornets.
See if they're set up to come wide in the option again.
Well, they go to a slot back now, come out of the wishbone, so we may see the ball go up. Nope. Quick hitter, Jerry Batten. He'll get inside the 40, and he gets the 5 back plus a couple and may have the first down. They'll spot it just short at the 39-yard line of the Rudyard Bulldogs. Call it 3rd down, a short 1 to go. Number 68, they're checking in defensively, is Brian Sheets, a 5'11", 165-pound junior for the Bulldogs. As Tim Jones brings his team to the line again, they go into that slot formation, and again, it's a quick hitter to Batten.
I don't think they used that slot in the first half that I can remember. I think that's 3 times in a row they've lined up with it now.
1st and 10 at the 35-yard line. 7 plays in this series. It started back on the 35-yard line of Mendon, and again, they're just cranking time off that clock, 4 and 5 yards at a time as we move down to the 6-minute mark in the football game.
Crouch carried the ball through the line.
Check that for that's Trent Crouch.
Yes, they have taken Batten out and received a nice and a well-deserved ovation for the fine play he has given Mendon today. Well, they brought Batten back in.
This is that time of every football game where the announcers have to sharpen their eyes a little bit.
Yes, it does appear as though Mendon wants at least one more touchdown. They're keeping some of the better ball players in there.
And that's one of them right there, Eric George, the big junior halfback. He'll get a couple. He'll be close to the first down at the 32-yard line.
Gorgeous hairdo there in front of us, Jim. It's one of the Mendon fans.
I saw him at the U.S. Open a few weeks ago.
It's become a real thing in college football. It's amazing some of the color combinations they can come up with, both for hair and faces. Of course, we're mostly interested in maize and blue.
Stopped short. It's Jones, the quarterback. That'll set up a 4th and 2 situation.
I think that's one of the few times today that he misread the defense and didn't hand off or pitch on that wishbone when it was the appropriate time to do it.
That's, I think, just the first time in the football game that on the very first play from scrimmage, Mendon was stopped for a 2-yard loss. Other than that, they have not been stopped without a gain.
Whoa, maybe we got to...
Flag on the play.
We're going to have what's likely to be some... Oh.
Well, that's an unusual offside call. They hadn't even gotten to the ball and set their positions yet.
Well, it looked like the Hornets were beginning to shift into some sort of shotgun offense, and it must have pulled someone from the Bulldogs offside. I did not see any contact made.
Nor did I. But it was a bad time to have it happen when you got about 4th and 2 or 3. Get that first down without even running the ball.
So Jones will bring his team back into the wishbone now. They'll go from there. Here's the pitch to Truckee. One block, he gets it inside the 5.
He's over.
Touchdown.
My word, they run that sweep option beautifully.
And we'll see just how beautifully it's run.
Now the quarterback pitches the ball just at the right moment, and they have 2 lead blockers out to pick up the defensive linebacker and cornerback, and they do it effectively.
Faked out 11 Bulldogs, 1 cameraman, and a tape operator.
Well, they're going for 1 again.
65 yards on that series in 11 plays. Point after touchdown by Phil Batten is good. And so with 3:40 left in the football game, the Hornets of Mendon High School go on top, 44-8.
Well, we may have seen the last of some of the starters for Mendon, although they may give them the opportunity to come out in front of the crowd. But they clearly have this ball game wrapped up.
And they have done it primarily by grinding it out. Not a wide open football game by any means. On that drive, it was gains of 4, 16, 8, 6, 3, 5, 4. Then that big run of 23 yards for the score. But
and other than the 2 real big plays, the long pass and the 75-yard run by George, you're right. That has been the way they've been doing it. And, of course, that's effective for a couple reasons. It gets you scores, but it also eats up that clock.
What do you call that in here? 3 yards and a cloud of plastic?
Yeah, I guess, but there's certainly no dust in here.
Maybe 3 yards and a rug burn. That would be appropriate.
I've noticed a couple ball players rubbing their elbows as though they did have rug burns. And matter of fact, Siachi one time after a run came up with what appeared to be a rug burn.
You just saw him deep to take this kickoff from number 41 right there, Phil Batten. So Sakachi will try to get a big run back, maybe one more touchdown to his career. He'll field the ball at the 18-yard line, cuts inside, gets across the 40. He is a determined young football player, Tony Sakachi.
He's one of those ball players that every time he gets the ball, you kind of get your heart jumping a little bit because you know he's going to do something with it. Didn't look like he had that much room on that return, but by gosh, he did it. Here he comes.
And we'll see isolated on him now and see just how determined he is.
He makes some excellent cuts on that return, and when the contact comes, he doesn't go down easily.
1st and 10 for the Bulldogs of Rudyard at their own 48-yard line. We'll try to pick up some numbers for you here as they are trying to give everyone a chance to play. Number 25 is Dave Elliott. He's a junior.
Elliott carried the ball. Right down by
Number 79, Todd Haynes, checks out of the defensive alignment that you see there for the Hornets as they'll start pulling out some of their regulars. And as we can see by the numbers, they already have several substitutes have checked into the lineup at this point. Trying to check the new quarterback for you. I believe it's Glenn Gluff. Barry Naback, number 47, and quarterback number 45 is Gluff. He's at a setback position. That was him with the football. So we got Naback at quarterback, Glenn Gluff at one of the setback positions. As Sakachi now is out of that lineup.
Well, he's earned a rest. He's handled that ball an awful lot of times today.
As we go under the 2-minute mark in the football game.
Completed pass.
And it's completed for the first down. Complete to Ron Rowe, another junior in the lineup for the first time today. Rowe, a 5'8", 140-pound junior. We'll take another look at this. Nice setup play. Nayback. Number 75 making the stop is Art Stevenson, who's gone all the way for the Hornets. Mark Parks now checks out of the Hornet lineup at the linebacking position. He has played an outstanding football game.
Particularly early when the issue was still in doubt. He cut off some plays that could have been big for Rudyard.
Nayback gives to Glenn Gloff. He'll get to the 35-yard line. 3 on the play. Number 81 you saw in there is Jeff Sherman. He's a senior playing in his last high school ball game as now another of the Mendon starters, Chris Talbot, checks out of the lineup.
It looks like Rudyard's just going to get some experience with some second-line ball players.
Nayback tries that quarterback sneak that's worked successfully for Bill Anderson. He doesn't find it to be quite as successful. Give him maybe another yard on the play. We'll call it 3rd and 6 now as we move down under a minute to play in this Class D championship football game. I want to remind you that the High School Athletic Association Championships telecast is a copyrighted production of WFUM and is intended for the personal use of the viewing audience only. Any rebroadcast, reproduction, or other use of the pictures or accounts of this game without the express written consent of WFUM and the University of Michigan Flint is strictly prohibited.
Oh, nothing there.
That as well is strictly prohibited. There's Glenn Bluff, and he'll get thrown for about a 6-yard loss.
We're going to have to hurry to get another play off, Jim. So the Manton crowd gets excited. And they're going to put it up big.
Go for the home run ball, and it's knocked away, and that'll be the football goal.
Very excited Mendon team, and with good reason. They have played an excellent football game, shown us a lot of superior offense.
So 1982 had its first Michigan High School Athletic Association state champion in the Class D this morning. The Mendon High School Hornets walk away with a championship 44-8 over the Bulldogs of Rudyard High School. And walk or run is about what you'd have to call it, Joe Roberson, as they just ground things out on the ground all morning.
2 times they chose to go to the air, and both times it was very effective.
Okay, there you see some of the Mendon fans who are very deservedly very happy for their football team, for their Hornets, as they've won that 44-8, as we've said, and an absolutely well-balanced attack. And Joe, if I had to cite a difference in the two teams at the end of this ball game, it might be just that Mendon does have a very, very well-balanced attack. It seemed like Rudyard was counting on Tony Sakachi to carry them through a championship, and one person just can't do it.
No, as excellent a ball player as he is, and he certainly is, he deserves all of the credit that he's been given throughout the year, but you're right. One ball player can't beat a balanced team like we saw in Mendon. All of their backs had effective days. Clearly, George is a tremendous back, but you can't protect against him and leave the others open, and then every once in a while, as we saw, they throw that long bomb a couple of times very effectively. You just can't beat that kind of balance.
And, of course, I think a couple of other things really hurt them. One, the size of their squad, just 23 players on the squad. And there in the first quarter, if you joined us late after Eric George took an option play 75 yards for a touchdown on the ensuing kickoff, Rudyard coughed up the football, and it took Mendon just about a minute and a half to get back into the end zone with quarterback Tim Jones. that's got to take a lot of steam out of you when you're playing both ways as they do.
And you could almost feel the depression on the opposite side of the Silver Dome as the people in orange realized that it was going to be a long morning after that turnover, and they turned out to be absolutely right.
And you've got to stay out on that field if that happens to you. Make that turnover with a squad this size. 6 or 7 of the Rudyard ball players going both ways, and they certainly have nothing to be ashamed of, because while Tony Sakachi is a great ball player and a lot of their offense was geared to him, the Mendon defense was able to, wasn't able to shut him down that well, but at least kept him out of the end zone, and when they needed to be tough, they were.
Yes, they only let him in once, even though Rudyard was able to move the ball. When they got down inside the 20, Mendon knew how to handle them.
And you don't have just one good ball player and get this far in the state of Michigan in any class. It's a fine Rudyard team that came out on the field, but they just weren't up to a very, very powerful Mendon football team, both offensively and defensively. We have a few minutes. We'll quickly run down the scoring in the football game for you. As we take a look at some of the crowd here, the Mendon crowd excited over the presentation of the State High School Class B trophy to their team. Eric George, as I said, scored early in the ball game. As we take a look at the pass play in the second half, and that's what Joe Roberson was talking about, that pass to Doug Cupp from the 28-yard line by Jones, and when you have a fantastic running game like they have, that's what's going to happen to you.
Yes, it was the play right after a turnover, and everybody was looking for that awesome running game that Mendon has shown all day. And when you get a guy 10 yards behind your defensive secondary, quarterback, he had to have his eyes wide open because it was a beautiful sight to see.
We'll take a look now at Sakachi, who has, as we've said, set a record for the most points scored by any high school athlete in a single season ever here in the state of Michigan. Tony Sakachi, that score was his, incredible as it may seem, 37th touchdown of this season. So they have, the Rudyard team has played a very, very fine football season led by Tony Sakachi. In the quarterfinal game, he had 4 touchdowns to his credit.
Well, you could see why. He also did some other beautiful things on the field.
As we take a look at the final touchdown of the game, Rich Truckee, and this is the way the option worked for them all day long. Again, you get a good sense there of just how well disciplined this football team from Mendon is in terms of being able to pull guards and tackles, to pitch at the right time on that option, and to run that wishbone offense.
Well, the quarterback's really a key to that. A number of times today, just as he was getting hit, he got rid of that ball. The most obvious one was on the first touchdown by George, but he did it all day, and that was another example. And as you point out, they also have those blockers downfield to take care of the linebackers and the cornerbacks.
And what's even more amazing is Tim Jones, the quarterback, is just a junior, so he's going to be back next year, and I got a hunch when we come back to the Silver Dome, we may see Mendon High School back here.
And if they've got the young man George back there behind him, if the two of them are anywhere near as efficient as they were today, they can put a lot of points up again next year.
As we said, they set up the first touchdown together. Tim Jones, quarterback, went on the option play from around his own 25-yard line. He came up to about the 40-yard line before anyone had a shot at him. When they did, he turned and pitched, and Eric George was right there on the spot, took the pitch, and went the rest of the distance, covering 75 yards for the first score of the game. That was 6 minutes left in the first period. Then on the ensuing kickoff, as we said, there was the fumble, and Jones drove his team right down to the 4-yard line. They scored again, went on top 14-0. Rich Truckee, the third back in the backfield, went in from 3 yards, and that, as I recall, was off another turnover.
I think that's right.
And then finally, with just 17 seconds left in the half, actually with about 25 seconds, Mendon threw its first pass of the game, and it covered about 54 yards down to the 3-yard line, where it was easy work for Jerry Batten to carry the football into the end zone for the final score of the first half. In the second half, again, a surprise pass play. This one covered 28 yards for a touchdown from Tim Jones to Doug Cupp. Batten added the extra point with a kick, the first attempted kick of the morning for Mendon. Then Tony Sakachi, the young man from Rudyard who has all those state records, scored from 15 yards out, which was proved to be Rudyard's only opportunity to score in the entire ball game. And finally, with 3:40 left in the football game, Rich Truckee scored on the touchdown you just saw in the replay from 23 yards out for the final score, again off that wishbone offense. So we have seen in this Class D contest two very, very dedicated football teams on the field that have come a long way. And as we said, while you're going to be seeing these games at various times in various parts of the state over the next couple of weeks, we've got 3 more games to do here today, Joe, and I think we've got some real exciting football ahead of us. We certainly saw some already.
Yes, we have, and I'm sure that the A, B, and C games are going to be equal to it. There are some excellent football teams that are going to be performing in this wonderful facility in the next few hours. I'm looking forward to all.
On the screen now, the names of the young men and women. We're excited to be here. We hope you've enjoyed our coverage of the Class D championship game. We've enjoyed being here and being able to bring it to you and watching a very powerful ground attack on the part of actually both teams in the Class D competition, but Mendon proved to be the tougher, and really 44-8, Joe, it's strange to make this comment at the end of a broadcast like this, but Mendon's defense did as much to win this game as anything.
Oh, I think you're absolutely right. They closed down, especially when it got down close to their goal line. But in addition to that, they were able to effectively control the big plays, which obviously the Rudyard's been able to do all year to run up the kind of points they have.
And they did that very well. Joe Roberson, thanks to you. On behalf of Joe and our entire staff here at WFUM, I'm Jim Gaver, bidding you a very pleasant good day and reminding you once again the final score in that Class D football game. Mendon 44, Rudyard 8.
In addition to that, they were able to effectively control the big plays, which obviously the Rudyard's been able to do all year to run up the kind of points they have.
And they did that very well. Joe Roberson, thanks to you. On behalf of Joe and our entire staff here at WFUM, I'm Jim Gaver, bidding you a very pleasant good day and reminding you once again the final score in that Class D football game. Mendon 44, Rudyard 8.